Hey everyone, how's it going? So I want to take a quick moment here and discuss a little indie game called Inside. Now, this is the final game that I'm playing for my backlog. Yes, the final game. I finally made it, but I'm going to be doing a video after this to explain that whole situation. But what I want to talk about today is specifically the game Inside, because this one took me a little bit by surprise. I mean, I was expecting something good because this is by the same developers who made, this great platforming game back in the day called Limbo. And Limbo was a very incredible game. It was definitely one of the more recognized platformers because when it came out, it really provided this surreal, really incredible experience, and it was very puzzle based and had some slight horror and tension moments to it. And especially the ending of Limbo was just like, oh my god, what the hell? You're like speculating what the hell was happening. It was pretty crazy. So Inside is what happens basically when you expand upon the foundation that you've built. And it's a much, I don't want to say it's a bigger game than Limbo because it's essentially the same side-scrolling, type of platformer puzzle game. But what it is a much more, I guess the correct word for it is it's Limbo with so much more depth added to the scenery and whatnot. So what we have is still a 2D platformer at its best, but it's kind of been interesting because they kind of rotate the camera at times and it adds this 3D depth to the environment, and everything just looks beautiful. It all looks it all looks like you're not just playing this simple side-scrolling game. Everything has a really strong artistic direction too. And I like it because whereas Limbo took a more fantasy type of approach with, the giant spider and whatnot, and you're running through this forest and you're comforting the world as you're going through it, what Inside does over Limbo is it basically takes place in this grand society pretty much that's been basically brainwashing citizens. And it's incredible to see because the game throws you in immediately to a chase sequence. You're running away from, the security personnel. You don't even know who you're running away from. And you're just, trying to, you're playing as like this young teenager or this young adult who's just trying to run away from these people trying to capture him. And it really just sets the mood, right? Because you're like shit, these people are after me and you don't know why they're after you. And then you start to, progress through the game. You start to realize what society has become, and more or less it is turned into a brainwashing type of society that more or less takes citizens, and I'm suggesting that these are, low-life citizens who don't really amount to much in their world, and they more or less plant security chips on them and have them wirelessly linked up to a single network to the point where they can control them and have them do remedial tasks, and where the rich and wealthy and the higher class people can more or less buy them as slaves. And so you play as this teenage boy who's an outcast who's decided, who just was trying to get out of there and to not be captured and brainwashed or I guess worked on. And it's really incredible to see. It really, really is. So more so than Limbo, I also want to point out that the visuals in this game are astounding. Now it's definitely a game with a strong art direction, right? But what's cool here is unlike Limbo, which took a very black and white faded approach, you actually have color injected here on screen. And you have these colors used, kind of sparingly. It's a very desaturated world. Things are colored. Everything kind of has like a muted tone to it, and your character has a more bright tone. And any important objects of interest and whatnot like that are highlighted through color. And so it makes the platforming, like you essentially know where you're going to jump to and where you're supposed to go. But the puzzle is trying to figure out how you interact with objects to better get you to where you need to go. So, for example, I need to jump on top of this platform to get to another platform because the bridge between the two platforms, the one that I was on and the one I wanted to get to, was too wide. It was too far of a jump. And so I had this switch here to toggle the platform to basically move up or down. So my natural, instinct, and I'm expecting everyone's natural instinct would be, all right, just move the platform up, jump onto the platform, then move it, or then jump onto the platform, then jump from that platform onto the one that you need to go. But it wasn't that simple essentially. So what you actually need to do is you need to grab the object and move the object, or at least push the object a little bit more centered or towards closer to your platform, then jump on that platform. And as it's moved from the weight, the force that you've basically, you jumped onto it. So as it's moving from the force of what you exerted onto it, you then jump onto the platform that you need to go to. So if you could understand any of what I was saying, essentially the puzzles are like that. They have real depth added to them, and it's more or less you interacting with objects and moving them into specific places and changing, how basically their stance for whatnot. For example, if a ladder is actually hanging from one side of the wall, you just need to push it to the other side in order to get up to that, part of the wall that you need to get up to. So it's stuff like that. This game is also brutal. Like Limbo was cool because it had you're playing as this kid, but there are traps, and there are parts where your head just got severed, and believe me, they didn't shy away from any of that here in this game. Your deaths in this game are brutal. I mean, they have dogs attacking you who run up to you, grab you and get you on the floor and then snap your neck. And they have these tranquilizer bullets that the enemies use, and they shoot you, and it just gets stuck in your back, and you're just basically sitting there, face down. You just got knocked out. There's other times where if you're close to water, for instance, and a character catches you, he will literally drown you in the water, or I guess drown you to the point where you pass out, and then essentially bring you to the dark room or wherever the hell they're gonna bring you to. So it's pretty cool. And it's not all, super sci-fi. There is some, mystical elements to it. For example, I was in this level where I was actually using a scuba diver set, and there was this one enemy that it was weird. It was like a hybrid of a mermaid and some scary chick who I just had to use the light of the submarine to get her away from me. Otherwise, she'd break through the glass and then freaking murder me. And so it's an interesting world like that, but it's a world that you want to explore, and it's a world that immediately pulls you into its experience to see more of it. And it's really fantastic, in all honesty. I really enjoy playing this game for the world that it has. And it's just like Limbo in that respect. It's great because of it, because Limbo and Inside, in the same respect, they push you along your experience by just sucking you into their world, and you just want to see more of it and want to see it to completion, more or less. So I haven't beat Inside. The game's supposed to be a little bit over 2 hours, which is probably the same amount of length that Limbo was. So I haven't beat it. I'm gonna be beating it tonight after I'm actually recording this video. But from what I played, my God, it is a really, really good game. And for anyone who hasn't picked this up yet, because this was released on Xbox One first, and you actually are seeing this on the Xbox One. So this was released on the Xbox One first, and a week later they released it on PC. And I believe by now, it took them a couple months, but by now the game is actually released on PlayStation 4. And so I highly recommend you guys pick this game up. I mean, even if you're not a huge side-scrolling platformer puzzle type of person, it's just what these guys do with the genre that just really kind of blows your mind. And I have to also say here, I almost forgot about this, but I really need to make it a point. I'm sure you guys have noticed this watching the footage. The animations in this game are some of the best, if not the best, animations that I've ever seen in a side-scrolling platform puzzle game like this. I mean, the character interacts and behaves like he's part of the world in a very realistic way. I mean, again, I'm going back to that thing about death that I added to the scenery and stuff like that. The developers really added this sense that the world is not just a 2D side-scrolling thing, that it actually does exist, and it actually does have real proportion to it. I mean, just because you push an object and you move your character to want to go on the other side, whereas other platformers would have you jump over that object and get on the other side, this character just walks around it. And it's pretty freaking awesome. I mean, especially how well the animations blend together. You can jump early to a platform or jump late, and he will react in different ways. And every way is so realistic. My God, these animations are incredible. I don't know if they did motion capture for this. I don't know what the hell they did to get the animations to look this good, but I have to say that they deserve an award, like a trophy for like best animations ever in a side-scrolling platform game. It looks incredible, and it really does go a long way at grounding the character in a world that does seem believable and whatnot. And some of these puzzles where you have to hook up to the network and control other people who are brainwashed. It's just amazing. I also want to point out that the soundtrack, just like Limbo, is very atmospheric, and so it only crops up during specific set times, but when it does, it really sets the mood right, and it really hits the tone that it's trying to hit, more or less. So everyone needs to play this game. Seriously, this is a great game. It's just as excellent, if not more excellent, than Limbo ever was, and I can't wait to go ahead and beat it just right after I'm recording this video. It's going to be awesome. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I have now officially caught up with my backlog, so you won't see any more, old games from 2016. Basically my impressions of that until much later, I guess, because I'm not completely done with all the 2016 games. But for what I wanted to do with my backlog, I'm more or less done. But keep an eye out for a vlog coming up right after this video. Give me till about Monday to upload that, and it's going to be a really important vlog. It's going to be the launch of a lot of brand new stuff coming up, and going to be rebranding the channel. So got some hints already on Twitter. I'll talk with you guys later. Be on the lookout for that vlog, and please, please play inside. It's a good game.